If you want to thrive in all of your relationships, personally and professionally, if you want to be a great leader, you want to be a great parent, you want to have a great marriage, you want to be a person of positive influence in the world, then you must understand the best way to change behavior of everyone around you. Regardless of anything you've learned in the past about influence and persuasion and communication skills, if you don't understand this one core perspective, then you will not be as effective in all of the other tactics and strategies that you've learned over the years for being great as a communicator and persuader and person of influence. I first learned about this concept when I read this book, Don't Shoot the Dog, The New Art of Teaching and Training. And it's funny because the blurb on the front of this book is by Carol Tavris, PhD, author of Anger. And it says, this delightful, clear, and utterly helpful book is for anyone who wants to understand or change the behavior of an animal, whether the animal in question is a barking dog, a nosy neighbor, a hostile cat, or you and your own bad habits. So what I know for certain from reading this book and studying this book is that whether we need to train animals like pets, or if we just want to train ourselves, or maybe we want to train the people around us to behave differently, to change their behavior in a positive way so they can get better results for themselves, for the team, for the organization, for the family, whatever it might be. And so I'm going to give you 5 very specific things you need to focus on if you want to positively change behavior of anyone and everyone around you in your life, personally and professionally. Let's start here. When you were growing up in school, what did your teachers train you to focus on? Did your teachers train you to focus on all the amazing things you did right and all the answers you answered correctly? Or was it more true that all, if not nearly all, of your teachers took one of these red pens and put it on your paper so you understood and were focused on everything you got wrong, every missed answer, every miswritten word, everything that you didn't know or misunderstood or wrote incorrectly or answered incorrectly, you had a red pen taken to it. And you were told, this is wrong. Whether the teacher actually wrote down this is wrong or not, you knew that when there was red markings on your papers, you did something wrong. You messed something up. What did that do to us as individuals growing up in a system that helped us to focus on everything we did wrong? I don't know about you, I can maybe guess, but I know for certain for me and for many people that I've witnessed and observed over my life, it trains us to focus on what's wrong. And the reason most people suffer in life or struggle for long periods of time or for most of their life is because they focus on what's wrong. They focus on what's going wrong. They focus on what they did wrong in their past. They focus on mistakes. They focus on failures. They focus on everything except for what they've done right or well or what they're doing right or the progress that they're making. And likewise, when we look at the people around us in our lives, a spouse, partner, friend, children, coworkers, people we lead, people around us socially, we tend to focus on what they're doing wrong, what they've done wrong, the mistakes, the failures, how they're not living up to what we expected them to be doing. And so in turn, because that's what we focus on, that's what we get more of. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Or said another way, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Your focus, your attention, it gives more power to that thing. And what most of us have never been taught in our lives, unless we happen to stumble across a book like this, Don't Shoot the Dog, we never understood that there are many different ways to train behavior. And what most of us don't understand is we are literally always training behavior of ourselves, our own behavior, and of the behavior of the people around us, personally and professionally. You see, literally every interaction you have, you are training people for something. You are training people to perceive you in a certain way. You are training people to show up with you in a certain way. You are training people to feel about you in a certain way. We are literally constantly and always training people to feel a certain way or to think a certain way or to act and behave in certain ways. And so what if we actually understood how to harness the power of training in the right way, with the right frame of mind, with the right approach, so that we could, guess what, maybe, possibly get the people around us and even ourselves to actually do behaviors on a consistent, regular basis that are positive and that move us and them and the team and our family in a positive direction. And so because most people focus on the negative and what's going wrong, we focus on wanting to punish people. Now that might sound intense, but hear me out. And I think you'll see that this is literally what we do. When your spouse gets home from work, or maybe when you get home from work, if your spouse is there first, if you're late, or maybe you forgot to do something during the day, what's the first thing your spouse does? Say, hey, thank you so much for showing up or for doing X, Y, or Z, or let me appreciate you for this thing or that thing. Or what's the first thing you do? What do you tend to focus on? Now, if you're a high achiever and you're into all of this stuff, maybe you're decent at focusing on the positive. But for way too many people, and maybe you even once in a while, you let it slip through the cracks and you mess this up because you're human, we punish. We attack. And that might sound intense, but the reality is, whatever the intensity level is, we tend to focus on what went wrong, what someone's not living up to, what someone is doing incorrectly, the failures, the mistakes. And so what are we training people to do when they show up in our lives and we punish them verbally? We say, hey, you messed this up, or why aren't you living up to the standard, or why aren't you did this wrong, you messed this up, or you didn't take out the garbage, or you forgot to do this thing, or you forgot to put this away, or you didn't put this right in the right way back where it was supposed to go. How do you feel? Like, how do you feel when someone speaks like that to you? Like the one example I heard one time that really changed everything for me, and it was after I've read this book, but it really let the information from this book sink in. Again, in a second, I'm going to give you 5 very specific and simple things you can be doing now to turn it around if you're not doing well with this today. I remember someone gave the example of like his daughter would show up late, or he was talking to someone, and this person said, this was a coach giving the example. He's like, yeah, I had a client one time say how my high school daughter was showing up late, past the curfew every time. And like the client just kept yelling at the daughter. He's like, you're showing up late. Why are you never going to go out again? Blah, blah, blah. Like yelling at the daughter. And so what do you think? He said to the client, what do you think you're training your daughter to do? He's like, well, I'm training her that she needs to come home on time. And he's like, maybe you're training her that she doesn't want to come home at all. Maybe you're training her that when she comes home, she gets yelled at. Maybe you're training her that when she comes home, she's told that she's less than. Maybe what you're training her to do is to feel unworthy of your love because every time she messes up, you yell at her. You punish her verbally. What if, instead, as soon as she walks through that door, even if she's 30 minutes late or an hour late or 2 hours late, what if instead you celebrated her arrival home? What if instead of yelling at her for being late, you celebrated the fact that she came home and that she's safe and that hopefully she made the right decisions? And you were just so happy to see her and you love her so much. And you waited till the next day to actually sit down and have a thoughtful, respectful conversation about your expectations and your rules in your home. It's not to say you don't need to tell your daughter that that you shouldn't have the conversation like, hey, you're showing up late and that's not okay in our household. That's an important conversation to have. The question is, when and how do you have that conversation? For most people, they have the conversation as soon as they feel it and they're like, oh my goodness, you messed up. Let me yell at you. Let me punish you. But what if you turned it around and instead you started celebrating the one thing you actually want to have happen? She came home. When your spouse comes home, if your spouse is late, your spouse was supposed to pick up the dry clean, your spouse was supposed to get dinner, your spouse was supposed to pick up the kids that day and couldn't because the meeting was running late, blah, blah, all the things, and you're mad, you're angry, you're upset, I understand. And the question is, do you want to prove your anger and yell and berate the person you love most or one of the people you love most in your life? Or do you want to be more effective in changing behavior in a positive way? For me, I know my answer. I would rather change behavior in a positive way. And what that means is, in this example, the next time your spouse shows up late or doesn't do the thing, celebrate something that you do appreciate, that you want to positively reinforce. They showed up. They came home. Maybe they didn't take out the trash, but they washed the car for you unexpectedly. Oh, you're late because you took an extra 30 minutes to go and wash my vehicle? Thank you so much. Or to fill up or to get the groceries that I didn't even expect you to get? Wow, you saved me so much time. There's literally always something we can appreciate and be thankful for in a relationship. Always, 100% of the time. And you might say, JJ, there's not always 100% of the time something I can be appreciative of or grateful for. Well, guess what? You will find what you're looking for, or you won't find what you don't think is there. So if you don't actually expect that there's something there to be grateful for, then you're not even going to look for it. But if you expect, based on this core belief that I have, that 100% of the time there is something to be grateful for and thankful for in a relationship of another human being, then you can find it. And you can share it with the other person. You can express that gratitude and you can appreciate that person. And then at a more appropriate time, you can have the conversation, the respectful conversation in the appropriate, effective way so that you can help that person and you get on the same page with what the expectation is, what the rules are, what you agreed to make happen going forward. And then the question becomes, how do you reinforce and train and condition the behavior you do want? Now is where we get into the 5 things that we need to do. Number 1, I got my notes because I just want to make sure that we've got them here. Know the behavior you want to see more of. So what is it that you actually want to train, or the behavior you want to see in the other person? If you don't actually know what the behavior is that you want to see in the other person, you cannot train the behavior. You're going to be random with what you reinforce, and it's going to be on a day-to-day random basis, and you're not actually going to have strength to the shaping, which is called shaping in the book. They talk about it, don't shoot the dog. Shaping is literally like the progressive realization of creating and conditioning the behavior that you're actually looking for. Like little by little, step by step, incremental changes and shifts where someone's moving in the direction of doing that behavior that you're looking for, or the animal or the pet is moving in that direction, you keep positively reinforcing that behavior. And I should say this on the front end, I think I did, but the best way that you can condition and train and teach the people around you is with positive reinforcement. That's the whole concept here. Like, let's understand that there's 4 different ways you can technically condition behavior. There's negative reinforcement, there's negative punishment, there's positive reinforcement, and there's positive punishment. And people don't usually understand what these 4 things actually mean. They think like negative reinforcement means like I yell at you, I'm negatively reinforcing. But technically, in the world of training, and I imagine in positive or in the psychology world, the negative on the front of anything means the removal of something. So negative punishment means the removal of punishment. So like the example they give in the book is like and positive punishment is the insertion of something punishing, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it might be. So as an example, like they're saying a cow walks into an electric fence that's surrounding the farm property. Well, as soon as the cow's nose touches the electric fence, that is positive punishment. So the cow is being shocked by the fence. That's positive punishment. Now, as soon as the cow moves away from the fence and stops being shocked, that is negative punishment, because the punishment is being removed, and now that's reinforcing the behavior of staying away from the fence. Do you see what I'm saying here? So there's positive on both sides, and there's reinforcement, and there's punishment. And what they're suggesting, what Karen Pryor is suggesting in her book, Don't Shoot the Dog, is that positive reinforcement is hands down by far the best way to shape and train and condition behavior in animals and in humans. And think about it this way. Like, if you're going to shape and train and condition and teach the behavior of someone else to get positive change in someone's behavior around you, even for yourself, do you think it would be better for them to feel negatively or positively about you? Because the other thing we do every time we interact with another human is get them to feel a particular way about us. And so if you are punishing another person because they messed up and you're like, I'm going to train them to do it right, so I'm going to punish them again and again and again and again every time they mess up until they get it right. Like, you maybe could shape behavior that way. Actually, you can shape behavior that way. But what's the feeling that person's going to have about you? Probably not super positive. They're probably not going to be super excited to be around you. They might start doing the behavior, but they'll do it just because they don't want to be berated by you or punished verbally by you in a personal or professional setting. But what if instead, Every time someone did something good, you positively reinforced it. Can you get the same outcome? Yes. And how are they now going to feel about you? Better. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world to focus on positive reinforcement. So that's what I'm focusing on with these 5 tips. As I just said, tip number 1 is know the behavior you want to see more of so you can start looking for it, which is step number 2. Look for it. Look for it and notice it. Like, don't just keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open so that you can actually see it and expect that it's going to show up. And when it shows up, observe it and then move on to step number 3. I'm going to move rapid through these, so hang around with me. Step number 3 is celebrate. And positively, enthusiastically reward the behavior that you want. The desired behavior must be reinforced as quickly as possible. Because if you wait till the next day to say, hey, I saw you did something yesterday, I really appreciate it. Is there still value in that? Yes. Like if my wife did something 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago, could I still come to her today and say, hey, babe, I noticed what you did the other day and I totally forgot to tell you, but I want to tell you I really appreciate what you did. That's great. Like, that's helpful. She's going to feel appreciated. But like in the moment that you see it, the sooner you see it, the more strong the reinforcement will be. The stronger the reinforcement of the behavior, of the positive reinforcement. So as soon as you see the positive behavior, reward it. Like as an example, I was doing hang power cleans this morning in class, in the 4:45 a.m. CrossFit class that I do Monday through Friday, mostly Monday through Friday. Sometimes I take a day off. Anyways, Monday through Friday, pretty much 4 to 5 days a week. And I was doing hang power cleans and literally I was getting after it. We were the 5th set of 10 reps and I'm doing some heavy weight because for me, heavy weight, I should say, because I love hang power clean. It's literally my favorite lift. And so I do the final rep. Like I'm literally getting under, I think the second to final rep. And I just got after it. And in that moment, Coach Mark took a picture of me doing it. And then he's like, good job. And he celebrated. Actually, it was my very last one because I remember I dropped it right afterwards. As soon as I finished, he's like, good job. And I remember just this feeling of yes, thank you so much. It felt greater than if he had waited 10 minutes to come up to me after, give me a fist bump and say, hey, great work today. That would have still been helpful and I would have appreciated it. But in the moment that I finished, he told me, great job. It boosted something inside of me at a greater level than if he had waited a handful of minutes to tell me how good of a job I did on the power clean. So I'm positively reinforced for the behavior, for the movement, but also for just doing the work. Number 4, notice and acknowledge improvements in a positive direction and appreciate it. So it's not just the one time. If you really want to shape behavior over the long term and sustain the success of those improvements, you've got to continually notice it on an ongoing basis. So in school, when the teacher took out the red pen and marked up everything, they noticed on an ongoing basis every time you screwed up, here's what you did wrong. And by the way, this is not a knock on teachers by any stretch of the imagination. This is simply a function of the world we grew up in. I mean, it is what it is. There's no other way around it. We were taught to focus on the negative and the mistakes and the mess ups and the failures. And to feel bad about it, quite frankly. Oh, you need to do better next time. You got a B, you missed 10. You should have only missed 4 or no more. You should have got them all right. What we need to do with the people in our lives is to continually notice positive progression of the behaviors that we desire in them. And you might say, well, JJ, that sounds manipulative. You're trying to train and condition the people around you. Dude, guess what? You know what's happening every time you interact with someone? What I say at the beginning of this episode, you are literally training and conditioning everyone every time you interact with them. Every time, no matter what. Whether you like it or not, it is how humans operate. So the question becomes, do you want to be intentional about it and helpful in helping the person make positive changes? Or do you just want to let randomness take over and just hope for the best? Or do you want to be intentional as a leader and a person of positive influence that you're going to show up in a way that helps other people to better themselves and improve their behaviors and their actions, not just for you, for them, and for all the people you're going to reach, for all the people they'll reach, or for simply giving yourself a better family. Number 5, make it your way of life in all relationships. Listen, this can't just be I've got a bad employee that needs to change behavior, or gosh, one of my kiddos is just really messing up, or my husband's been not being great lately. Listen, friend, make this a way of life. Start focusing on the good things people are doing, celebrate the positive behaviors, and immediately, quickly appreciate what they're doing, notice it to them, and do it on a consistent basis. Whether it's someone you lead or a family member, or even just someone you see in passing. Like, celebrate. I remember one time, and this is not to toot my own horn, but to give you an example, like, I remember on an airplane one time, a gentleman just sitting way in front of me helped the lady that was getting on board move her suitcase because she like loaded up. There's so much happening. He helped her get her suitcase back and put it up in the thing because she had her hands full. And I looked at him. I said, "Hey, I saw what you did. That was really kind of you." Like, I don't know what that meant to him, but I made sure that I reinforced the positive. He didn't do it for my acknowledgement to get appreciated, but guess what? I wanted to positively reinforce that behavior in that man because I know for certain that behavior done again and again and again by more and more people can make the world a better, brighter place. And friend, if you have not yet gotten my book, Attract Your Potential, Become the Best Version of Yourself and Achieve Your Biggest Goals Faster, please go over to Amazon and buy yourself a copy right now. Maybe buy 2 copies and give it to a friend, or read it, have your life improved, hopefully, and then realize it's so good that you need to buy another and give it out to people, maybe give it out to your team. But whatever you are doing in your life, I hope you refuse to settle for anything less than your greatest potential because you are destined to do something special with your life. And if this message has been helpful for you, has been positive or encouraging or uplifting in any kind of way or insightful, please share it right now with a team member, family member, friend, somebody you care about who you want to help be their very best too in everything they do. And until next time, friend, whatever you're going after, refuse to quit. Just keep going. And great things will happen. See you next time.